Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. A little bit of a late night upload here, a pretty important one though, because we just got a major update for Warzone Pacific. This includes a ton of weapon tuning. We're talking Cold War tuning, Modern Warfare tuning, Vanguard tuning, or so they say. A lot to go over here. Huge changes to the meta inbound with this. So as we go over it all, if you enjoyed the video at any point, let me know by dropping a like on it. Would be seriously appreciated. And of course, if you're new to the channel or if you're part of about the 58% of viewers who have not already subscribed, this is the best place to be for everything going on in COD, between news, updates, class setups, tips. It's all right here each and every single day. So feel free to subscribe with your notifications turned on, as we are under 10,000 subs away from 800K. But without further ado, let's talk about these patch notes. So we scroll down, we got our update for December 9th. Bug fixes. There's a couple of different things going on here. They fixed collision issues with various elements across Caldera, allowing players to exploit or peek or shoot through them. So some holes and whatnot that you could actually get through to, you know, get weird angles and stuff. Fixed an issue allowing access to items that players were not supposed to see yet. I'm not quite sure what that means or what that's referencing. If you know, by all means, let me know down in the comments below. But then we get to the weapons. This is the core of the update. They say numerous changes have been made to Vanguard weapons and attachments. Names, descriptions, pros, cons, and stat bars have been updated in-game to reflect these, so pretty much everything we know now is a little bit different. In addition to the above-mentioned Vanguard changes, the following Modern Warfare and Cold War weapon adjustments have been made. So I guess for Vanguard, they've just updated pros and cons and different stats like that. But when it comes to the actual weapon changes here that are confirmed, for the Cold War AK, initial recoil deviation was increased, so it's going to have more recoil right off the rip. They say, we do not fully believe the AK is imbalanced. However, we want to stay on top of weapons that have a consistently fast time to kill by ensuring their handling and behavior is consistent with other similarly effective weapons. To me, honestly, I don't think that's enough of a nerf to get the AK out of the meta. I still think a lot of pros are going to be using this for tourneys and whatnot. It's still one of the top rifles in the game without a recoil and damage and potentially even a range decrease, right? So that's something we definitely want to keep an eye on, but they did nerf the recoil a little bit there. For the EM2, this is a big one. Neck damage multiplier decreased by 0.1, so nothing too crazy there, but it's going to make neck shots a little bit less lethal. They also increased the recoil and the deviation. The EM2 has exerted an impressive level of dominance over the long-range engagement space since its debut. Generally, this can happen when a weapon's time to kill potential is not met with adequate downsides. Slow-firing weapons like the EM2 naturally lend themselves to higher-skilled players, as misfired shots are far more detrimental. In the case of the EM2, we felt its mechanical input was not equivalent to its output. We've adjusted its recoil behavior such that it will require more active recoil countering, so that's going to be a lot more difficult to control now. We also reduced its neck multiplier, which will affect some of the realistic TTK breakout points while leaving the potential TTK unchanged. So it's just basically raising the skill gap on the EM2. For the marksman rifles, the crossbow from Modern Warfare, neck damage increased to potentially 1 hit now through full armor. The upper torso damage and the lower torso damage was also increased to make an enemy one shot if you hit the upper torso or sometimes the lower torso. For marksman rifle Charlie, flinch resistance was decreased by 62%. That's a huge amount. Marksman Rifle Charlie, which I believe is the car, and the Swiss have benefited greatly from heavily reduced flinch, an attribute which has been exclusive to aggressive snipers for quite some time. A considerable reduction to their base flinch resistance will require some acclimation, as veteran snipers will find that they can no longer challenge assault rifles as consistently while sustaining fire in long-range engagements. This is going to match them with the Vanguard weapons, the Vanguard snipers that have a lot of flinch. That's a big update there. In all reality, that's a very drastic change to the sniping meta. That's going to change a lot of things. For the R1 Shadow Hunter, they basically copy and pasted the stats here from the MW crossbow as well. So now neck damage can actually one-shot a fully armored player. Upper torso damage can do 240 damage and make an enemy one shot. And to certain weapons, 220 damage is also a one-shot potential as well. So the crossbows, if you have really good accuracy, could absolutely decimate a lobby, which is very interesting to say the least. So we're going to have to see if those have any realistic play in the meta. Obviously, they are very niche weapons, very high skill, high risk, high reward weapons. If you miss one shot, you're probably done because it takes so long to reload and, you know, rechamber that other shot. So definitely some interesting changes with that. The melees, the upper torso damage, the lower torso damage, the upper arm damage, the lower arm damage, and then all the leg damage on the ballistic knife was actually increased a little bit. So that'll be a lot more lethal now and can potentially reward some players. Similar to the crossbow and the Shadow Hunter, we are increasing the effectiveness of the ballistic knife. A single well-aimed piece of tac equipment can put an enemy within one shot range to the upper torso, creating a surprising 1-2 punch. Again, very high skill gap weapon that really only top tier players are going to be able to master ever. I don't think that's something we'll viably see in the meta anytime soon. The baseball bat, the battle axe, the cane, and the mace all had their lunge decreased by quite a bit, so it's going to be a lot easier to avoid getting killed by those so quickly. Shotgun Bravo from Cold War. Movement speed decreased by 1.2%, and the ADS movement speed decreased by 8.6%. So this is now going to be a lot less lethal when it comes down to it. With its inherent Cold War mobility and generous magazine size, Shotgun Bravo has remained a force to be reckoned with despite receiving several balance changes. Reducing the shotgun's mobility will make it more susceptible to downsides one would expect from other weapons in its class. So, I mean, the shotgun meta right now is really not all that great, especially on Caldera where so many fights are at a range, and the combat shotgun is really the main one that I think people could be using from this point on. Sniper rifles, the Swiss also had its flinch resistance decreased by that same 62% from earlier. That's a pretty big nerf as well, just like before. For the OTS, maximum damage was decreased by 1, so that's going to be a little bit less powerful. And the headshot damage multiplier was also decreased quite a bit there, so the OTS not looking like it's going to be a super competitive SMG in terms of TTK off of that. We still have some other pretty solid ones, though, pending these other attachment and updates here. Then for SMG Alpha for Cold War, maximum damage decreased to 20, down from 31, and the headshot multiplier was decreased a little bit as well. SMG Charlie, both of these are the MP5s, by the way. Fire rate decreased a little bit, sprint to fire decreased, and these only affect Warzone and not multiplier. The OTS has ruled over the short range space for some time, so that nerf is no surprise. As a preventative measure, we'll also be adjusting several weapons that have been waiting in the wings to take its place once dethroned, the MP5s. While it is sad to see our favorite weapons take a hit to their effectiveness, we feel the pool of short range weapons will benefit from this 100%. It makes a lot of the Vanguard weapons a little bit better. Note, an imminent update will further address bloom and include weapon adjustments, including to the PPSH, which is currently by far the best SMG in the game, especially now after these nerfs. So the PPSH nerf is coming. Just beware of that. Now, attachment adjustments. We've got these to round things out. The optic on the 2.5 times for assault rifles, the eye position was shifted forward a little bit, so that's going to be a little bit more ideal. It's going to create a greater area of magnification, so it'll be more similar like the VLK 3 times, let's say. For the Raider stock on Cold War, movement speed modifiers decreased by 25%, and same deal on the combat stock. So using those on any of the Cold War weapons now is still going to make those noticeably worse and noticeably slower. So again, huge nerfs to the movement meta when it comes to that. Warzone is a living, breathing, ever-evolving game that demands not only that we regularly reflect on precise weapon details, but also at times take a pause to assess the state of the game holistically. Games that progressively introduce content like Warzone run the risk of experiencing power creep. It is important that intermittently we can press the power level of certain aspects in a game that may be at risk of endangering the greater balance, which is really that Cold War movement, honestly. We believe that the influx of all the Vanguard content is a most opportune time to adjust the mobility attachments in Warzone. The sheer existence of these attachments significantly warps not just this attachment category, but also requires that any future weapon that intends to identify as highly mobile must contest these values. So they don't want to necessarily buff the mobility on all these other weapons. They want to reduce the mobility on some of the fastest weapons in the game. That's essentially what they're getting at there. So quite a few changes when it comes to this weapon update. Personally, the top weapons, we're going to go over the top 10 loadouts here ASAP after I can get on and make sure, you know, we have all these attachments, pros and cons listed correctly for Vanguard weapons. But I mean, things like Automaton, STG, NZ41 bar, PPSH, maybe the MP40 here and there. Honestly, the Farah, potentially the Cold War AK still, those will be some of the best weapons for sure. We might even see some of the MW subs come back into the fold with this if I'm being honest. So we're going to have to wait and see fully. But as of right now, a lot of changes going on with the meta. That's going to do it for this video, though. If you enjoyed it, let me know by dropping a like on it. It would be seriously appreciated. And of course, if you're new to the channel or if you have not already subscribed, feel free to do so. That way you can always guarantee you are up to date with everything going on in COD. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I will catch you guys later. Peace out.